Hello, my name is METİN arkadaşlar. This is 325th part of explanation of my theory. According to my theory and my formulas, if the speed of light was constant, there would be no Compton shift. Compton experiment is proof that the speed of light is not constant. 1. Compton shift is not the result of the collision of a photon and an electron as particles interaction. Compton shift is the result of the intersection and interaction of two different types of light waves. This is proton-bound electron motion forms single wave pulse, and these are consecutive spherical ring-shaped waves of a free electron motion form which is in motion. Yes, and in each direction, when we compare at each point, consecutive free electron motion forms consecutive waves point wavelength, and point wave speed is different, okay? But for proton-bound single wave pulse in every direction at the speed of light. So there will be speed, velocity differences between two intersected waves. The difference in speed between these two different types light waves is proportional to the difference in wavelength between the two different wave crests of peaks on the graph. Okay. 2. In Compton experiment, peak represents a characteristic X-ray key alpha wave with 0.0709 nanometer key alpha. Okay. Characteristic X-ray key alpha wave. Characteristic X-rays are isotropic. Yes. Including the characteristic X-rays, all emission lines are the single wave pulses which come from excited proton-bound electron motion forms. Each single wave pulse is a sphere which expand through eternity in each direction at the speed of light. However, what is not realized is that a characteristic wave can only be seen with a continuous spectrum. A continuous spectrum, as I explained to you before, this is continuous spectrum of free electron motion forms consecutive waves, and this is as phi characteristic line. For instance, 0.0709 nanometer from molybdenum. A continuous spectrum, as I explained to you before, represents a light source which is in motion. Of course, unique consecutive light wave source is nothing but free electron motion forms. Contrary to accepted physics theories, light waves speed depending on their source's motions and directions, not only its speed, their wavelength. This is 0 degree direction, motion direction, electron motion form with its consecutive waves interfere with single wave pulse of free proton-bound electron motion form. Okay, at each point, energy, mass, point energy, point wave velocity is different. These are my formulas. Point wave velocity, point wavelength, okay, for each direction. Of course, unique consecutive light wave source is nothing but free electron motion forms. Contrary to accepted physics theories, light wave speed depending on their sources, motions, and directions. At each point in each direction and orientation, point wavelength, point wave velocity, point mass, point angular momentum, point energy, etc. change depend on free electron motion forms, velocity, motion direction, and orientation. So a continuous spectrum represents the anisotropy. Anisotropy. Anisotropy. Also, when these two different types of light waves, different types of light waves interfere, overlap, intersect, there will be a difference in wave speed between them depending on the direction of free electron motion forms. Motion. I formulated basically this difference like that. This is single wave pulse speed in every direction, speed of light minus c minus electron motion forms velocity cosine alpha. So wave velocity difference between two different types waves for each direction formula is equals to electron motion forms velocity cosine alpha. This easily. This is my other formula. Okay? Yes. Cosine alpha here, VE is electron motion forms velocity, cosine alpha is the direction and orientation of free electron motion forms motion. Okay. Yes. Now this speed difference will be my first variable. My first variable that I will use when explaining Compton shift according to my theory. Therefore, if there is proportionality between the wavelength variable, here like this, wavelength variable, okay, snapshot. I advise you to notice. Yes. Now this speed difference will be my first variable that I will use when explaining Compton shift according to my theory. Therefore, if there is proportionality between this wavelength variable in the Compton shift and my speed difference variable, Compton shift will be proof that the speed of light is not constant and light is not a particle. 3. When I computed according to my theory and my formulas, the wave speed difference rate and the wavelength difference rate for each direction, I saw the results what I predicted. The wave speed difference, okay, here wave speed difference, V cosine 0 degree. At first, electron motion form velocity is in here from my previous videos to 216,340.9. This approximately yes, near the speed of light. This, okay. Then cosine, for cosine 0, difference, speed difference between two wavelengths, 216,340. For 30 degree, 187,356 point. Like this. For 45 degrees, for 60 degrees, for 90 degrees, for 135 degrees, for each one, wave differences. Okay. And wavelength differences, like this, 0.0022 nanometer, here for 30, 0.0019, for 45, 0.00155, etc. like this. And when I compare rate between them, like this, speed difference for 0 degree divided by speed difference for 30 degrees is equals to wavelength difference at 0 degree and wavelength difference at 30 degree are the same, 1.15, and so on and so forth. Same rate. Here the terminator is electron motion forms, velocity, direction, and orientation. In Compton experiment and in Compton shift, the wave speed difference and the wavelength difference change at the same rate depending on the free electron motion forms motion direction and orientation. This is the proof, like this, when I compute it. Okay. 4. If the free electron motion form didn't move, the speed of its consecutive waves in each direction would be the same as the speed of the single wave pulse, the speed of light. Energy and wavelength of each point of free electron motion forms waves in each direction would be the same also, like this. Here, electron motion form is in motion. Here, electron motion form is at rest, okay, and its consecutive waves here. And this is single wave pulse of proton-bound electron motion form coincide. And now, if the free electron motion form didn't move, the speed of its consecutive waves in each direction would be the same as the speed of the single wave pulse, speed of light. Energy and wavelength of each point of free electron motion forms waves in each direction would be the same also. In this case, we would not see a Compton shift in any direction. We would see the same wavelength crests at 90 degrees in all directions, like this. Okay, but carefully, again and again. Here, largest wavelength difference, largest through the small and largest through the small velocity or speed difference between single wave pulse and what? Free electron motion forms consecutive waves in 0 degree direction, largest difference between speeds and largest difference between wavelength. and delta lambda prime 0.0022 nanometer. Okay, changing. This is changing. This is at this point 0, 90 degree. Go on, minus side, plus side. Okay. Yes. I will go on next. Have a good evening. See you later.